Okay, good afternoon to all our attendees throughout Australia and indeed globally. The first day of winter down here in Australia, and firstly, in the spirit of reconciliation, as an Australian organisation, Red Piranha would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, pay our respects to elders past and present, and we extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people and their connections to land, sea, and community. My name's Kevin Greeley. I'm the Chief Growth Officer, and I'm on Bundjalung land. Ben Aylett is joining me. He's our Product Manager at Red Piranha, and we are very excited today about our 4.5 and other announcements we're making. We're not joking around when we say that Red Piranha is here to revolutionize the cybersecurity industry. So today we'll make this as clear as the nose on your face. So we have it all. You're going to hear some acronyms today. XDR, CSP, Consolidated Security Platform, the CSMA, which is Cybersecurity Mesh Architecture, CTEM, the Continuous Threat Exposure Management. Get any of these wrong there, Ben? And also MDR, which is Managed EDR and Managed NDR, Network Detection and Response, and Endpoint Detection and Response. So we know our partners, or we think we do, and we know your existing and emerging cybersecurity pain points. And among the existing ones is firstly the cost of the tool, tech, and personnel, the cost of putting it all together to be a true MSSP. And also the pain, secondly, of helping your customers understand cyber risks and the value of allocating enough time and money to mitigate them. I think that's probably getting easier at the moment as news stories tell them all about this, and they have friends that get owned. And also, thirdly, having the solution in one place, another pain point. And later we'll outline our depending partnership with ESET, which is very cognizant to that point. The emerging pain points, firstly, Microsoft now becoming a big player in the internet information security field. Microsoft being expensive, locked behind enterprise licensing for the stuff you need now, like extended log management, and also IoT, secondly, and IIoT environments. They're hard to monitor and maintain control over, with the attack surfaces being quite difficult to manage as well. So today we'll show you how we can alleviate this pain, but also first, let us tell you a little bit about Red Piranha. So founded 8 years ago, 2015, and we launched our product Crystal Eye in 2018. Red Piranha pioneered the integrated security service model, now known as XDR, coined by our friends at Palo Alto and Gartner. So we're helping protect the world from cybersecurity threats by making enterprise-grade security available for every business: government, defense, financial services, education, health, SME, some of the key verticals that we work in. And here's a snapshot on the screen of security bodies we're proud to be a part of or recognized by, and also some of our industry awards. We work very closely with the ACSC. We're also ISO 27001 certified ourselves and an authorized certifier for our clients and partners. We're CREST certified for our pen testing services and security assessments, also part of the Cyber Threat Alliance over in Washington, D.C., and the OISF for trusted threat intelligence feeds. And Red Piranha, we're actually number 1 or 2 in unique reported observable threat in their monthly reports there. And we're very proud of that, punching well above our weight, going up against people like Palo Alto and Fortinet and the like, and beating them at their own game as well. Also, we're a Global InfoSec Award winner, again, of Next Gen in XDR category at the 2023 RSA conference, just happened over in San Francisco. This here shows the full cybersecurity picture and outlines the 7 security outcomes. Weaknesses in any of these areas really leave dangerous gaps in the attack surface. And Red Piranha's Crystal Eye platform addresses each of these 7 security outcomes, looking at cybersecurity from a very holistic approach. So what we're seeing in the market is supply chain risk, fear of being the next one. Particularly in Australia, we saw Optus and Medibank and Latitude Financial getting hit. And just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, they just come along. They're coming hard and fast. So if we start from the top of the diagram, move around, we see numbers 1, 2, and 3, policy, training, access management. Mostly soft controls, can be quite rudimentary, but also the most challenging fixes. They are the human gaps, and it's no wonder. According to Stanford University, 88% of cybersecurity incidents happen from clicking a dodgy link or from social engineering or types of phishing, often preying on the human need to help. That 88% statistic, it's always around there, no matter who you speak to. It can be 95, it can be 70, depending on the research body or whoever's doing the news at the time. Awareness training isn't just about phishing, it's about the responsibility being owned and accepted by everybody in the organization. In the SolarWinds compromise back in 2020, a key factor was the intern no longer working there, creating a weak password that was breached. You'll probably remember SolarWinds 123, something so simple just caused chaos. So where do we point the finger here? Was it the CEO's responsibility to oversee the staff adequately being trained, or management following appropriate procedures? It just really points to failures in number 1, 2, and 3 on the diagram. And what about 3CX a few weeks back? Ben's going to jump in here and talk about how our SOC handle this. If you're there, Ben, and on mic.
Yes, I am. Thanks, Kevin. So the 3CX breach was a really interesting one. So this looked like a sort of like a stacked supply chain attack. So the initial attack vector was through some cracked trading software. And was intended initially to hijack trades and basically pull money out of accounts. We do suspect North Korea, China were involved in this one. And what happened was that an employee of 3CX actually downloaded and installed this trading software, which was cracked, and all of a sudden the adversary realized that they had an into a very large piece of infrastructure, really. So this communications infrastructure that is 3CX, they realized they had a way into this because it was a developer, and then they leveraged that foothold into an attack. Now, the attack was opportunistic, so it could have been worse for us. They could have executed it a bit better, but fortunately, we managed to detect this weird activity beforehand, and we basically stopped it about 2 or 3 days before the actual threat was turned into an exploit and actively used out in the wild. So, yeah, we're very proud of the fact that we've got eyes on glass. We're watching for these sorts of threats, and we're actually able to get ahead of the attackers in quite a few cases.
Look, thanks, Ben. It's a very interesting scenario as well, given the current discussion around directors' liability on cybersecurity being quite a hot topic. 3 weeks ago, a psychotherapy clinic CEO in the US was condemned to prison for failing to protect patient data. Now, he didn't actually go to prison. He was suspended, as often in the kind of what we call white-collar crime seems to have be somewhat victimless, but that's obviously not true in this day and age with these things happening. We look at number 4, vulnerability management. It's more than just running a vulnerability scan, ticking a box. It may be about running a scan, then investigating the results, examining how it was able to get in, and then rating the vulnerability via multiple departments and revising the risk. SecOps might categorize something as a 10 out of 10 critical, and then compliance might run their eyes over it and mark it down to a 6 out of 10, a relatively high. But vulnerability management is about utilizing the whole team of security experts to recognize and mitigate risks and prioritize the resources based on the elevation level of these risks, not just jump at everything, because you'll end up jumping at the wrong things and get caught out. As we keep moving around the diagram, we look at 5 and 6, and then we hit security monitoring and incident response. So the questions are, who's actually monitoring the alerts and what are you doing about it? So for those dealing with security monitoring, we know it's very noisy and difficult to provide that follow the sun 24/7, 365 eyes on glass. And we know some even other MDR companies in Australia they have differing levels like 9 to 6, those kind of things. So we'll be all familiar with monitoring alerts, filling the ticketing queues, and a lot of the time it's hard to sort out the real threats from the false positives. Often more realistic for small and mid-sized organizations to do this. It's, well, not realistic to do it in-house, so that can become an existential risk. With number 7, business continuity management and DR, how long can an SME business survive with downtime of a compromise, and what's the plan? Because we all know in cybersecurity, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and really, what are you going to do about it? With cybersecurity, we see it in Red Piranha as a journey. It's quite a cyclical nature as well. We look at the advisory side of it, getting the experts in to look at your environment and your organization. And then we have vulnerability and pen testing services, just seeing where these weaknesses are. We look at security assessments with our governance, risk, and compliance, again, looking at some of the softer controls. And then we rely on our partners. We don't do the remediation. That comes down to partnerships with MSPs and and the internal IT organization and capabilities of the company. And then we get to the practical security outcomes. We have our Crystal Eye XDR, and obviously with our services that we provide, we can be agnostic with technology, but we do favor in many ways. It's like our XDR. And then we, being an ISO 27001, we do point towards that area. Now, when we look at the next slide, we can really see mapping the security outcomes, and that's vital to understanding a client's posture. So here you'll see what we do for our eCISO or vCISO clients, and also for security assessments. Some of you in the room have your clients' businesses and even your own business in the eCISO program, and understand how useful this visual is. It's very simple, but it does map how we help elevate the cybersecurity posture of every single organization that we deal with. And it really helps us bring it down to very simplistic terms in quite a complex concept. Okay, when we look at the security outcomes, but show how Red Piranha has a service or product to assist with each one. So these security outcomes are common to all major standards, to ISO, NIST, COBIT, PCI, and others. And we have for you the technology and services to increase posture in each of these areas. The combination of our products and services really helps to establish greater maturity across the entire organization to meet the necessary compliance framework, or even just best practice. Okay, now with Gartner, Gartner's done some really interesting research around the world, and this particular piece is around market opportunity for XDR. And as we listen to Gartner, we know we're on the right track in our pursuit of the holistic solution. So nearly half of global XDR interest and adoption last year was in APAC, and that's quite a considerable weighting. Gartner's their predicted growth in XDR provides, sure, a great opportunity for Red Piranha, but also for our partners. XDR vendors with strong managed service offerings should focus on the APAC region, is what we're saying. Well, we're already here and we've got the managed services. So another reason for this sweet spot in Asia Pacific region is a trend towards vendor consolidation here. So did we mention the word holistic? And that's really what we're all about, is combining everything. And this is, I guess, 2023, 24 is very much becoming the year of Red Piranha and XDR, or CTEM, or CSP, or whatever acronyms we want to use. Now, when we look at our XDR on-prem and cloud offerings, we offer a range of appliances to meet the requirements from a branch office up to enterprise, with true security throughput from 100 Mbps to 40 gig per second and beyond. Some really high-end telco range stuff. So instead of mass producing lots of units that sit on the shelf and become obsolete, we offer major order appliances with the latest technology, such as Intel's latest Gen 11 processors. Of course, nothing to do with cash flow, or maybe that does have a little bit to do with it, Ben?
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
Okay, so look, each appliance is available in cloud, so AWS, Azure, VMware EXXI, and also BYOL. It's a cloud-native security platform. Okay, so these are the 5 key functions of cybersecurity. Most organizations focus on protection or some detection, but many neglect other areas and don't have a cohesive security program to address all the areas effectively. So I'll now hand over to Ben Aylett, Red Piranha Product Manager. I know he's there, and he's going to outline how Red Piranha's Crystal Eye 4.5 covers all of these comprehensively. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Okay, so yeah, as Kevin said, I'm the product manager for Red Piranha, and we are showcasing some of the changes that we've introduced with Crystal Eye XDR version 4.5. This is that 9th iteration of Crystal Eye XDR. Very proud of it. A lot of great features are coming in. We'll just go over a few other diagrams before we get to the meat and potatoes. All right, so this is a visualization of the Crystal Eye XDR platform. Now, it's not just a simple appliance or box, as some people like to call it, and just dropped at a site and then we're done. This is actually like a whole ecosystem that comprises of endpoint appliances, endpoint applications, cloud native services as well. But this all comes back to our XDR platform. So you'll see that in the top of the slide. Where we've got Orchestrate. Orchestrate is the like the control panel that our partners and end clients use to manage their devices or fleets of devices. It's also where we maintain that MSP and end client relationship. So we've actually got the technical controls in there to make sure that that relationship between the end client and MSP is respected, and that those rules are actually enforced through technical controls. And also, I've come from the MSP world myself, so I understand how valuable it is to have that connection with your clients, and that's actually respected very deeply, just with me. So I'm actually very active and very watchful about the way that end clients are handled in relation to our MSPs, and I just make sure that they, that relationship is respected. We also have CSOC. This is our in-house security operations center or software that we use to drive it. We are also in the stages of developing this that will be made and making it available to our MSSPs. And also some of the larger end clients that maybe want to run their own security operations centers. The advantage to this is that it can either take care of the entire range of incident responses, so from level 1 through to level 3, or if you just want to tune it, so like an MSP have that initial contact, so through your level 1 tickets or incidents is handled directly with the MSP, and then if it needs to be escalated to a more dedicated resource, it can then be resourced to our own in-house security engineers, and then of course incident response experts. So that's CSOC. We've also got integrated risk management. So we do have a team of risk managers, and this is most evident with our eCISO program, where we have risk managers come in and they're like a security personal trainer. So there's the ongoing cadence meetings and risk assessment, and it gives your end clients a clear plan to follow and to execute steps in their journey towards cybersecurity maturity. And then, of course, the threat intelligence, which Kevin talked about earlier. So this is like our contributions to the Cyber Threat Alliance, the OISF. We are actually doing very well in regards to our volume of reporting and also quality of reporting. It's also worth noting that all of our appliances that are out in the field are also acting as collection points for intelligence. So if we see anomalies popping up on appliances, that threat intelligence is fed back into our security operations center. New rules are written and then pushed out to all appliances on the Crystal Eye platform. So this is how we're able to give like a predictive or a sort of like a really on the front foot sort of protection against threats out there before they become well known and published. All right, let's see, next slide. Right, so Kevin mentioned that we sort of fit the description of various acronyms out there. So Consolidated Security Platform, Cybersecurity Mesh Architecture, Extended Detection and Response. If you've got any well-educated users or CISOs out there that are reading the reports, they could come back and ask about these particular acronyms and if it's supported. This is actually categories that we've helped develop with Gartner. So we've actually been working very closely with Gartner on understanding and implementing these technologies. In most cases, we've actually already implemented it before the naming comes along. So we're quite proud of that too. All right, now the fun stuff. So we've got some new updates with Crystal Eye 4.5. That is Azure Active Directory, passive encryption control, threat hunt dashboard, automated actionable intelligence. That's an old favorite. Vulnerability scanning is also something we've seen before, but there's just been improvements. IDPS and of course secure web gateway. But enough of the slides. Let's start sharing screens. Give me just a second, and it will be that one. Okay. All right. So this is the security dashboard. We'll probably skip right on over. I hear you in the background there, Kevin. You got a question?
No. I'm just saying you are looking good.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Okay. So Azure Active Directory is one of these tools that we've developed and released in 4.5. We've realized, and also this is something that's been indicated by a lot of industry analysts, where we've recognized that Microsoft is making a big play for the security market. And it only makes sense that they do so because, I suppose they're probably one of the most dominant forces when it comes to cloud services. So yeah, we've developed this tool, Azure Active Directory, which allows us to connect into the Azure AD tenancy for your site or number of sites. So you can actually set up multiple profiles or configurations. And we can set things like our poll interval and retention period, which is a big deal. So currently our maximum retention period is 90 days. And we are working on ways we can extend that. We're also working on the ways we can improve the quality of signals coming in from the Azure Active Directory tenancy. So just going over that, we'll have a quick look at the summary. And so the summary looks something like this. I'll show like a cleaned up, like a sanitized version. This is going to like a test tenancy just to make sure things are working. But I'll quickly show you some of the signals we can pick up. So for example, OneDrive. OneDrive has a whole bunch of signals we can pull on. So that can be when a file is accessed, modified, uploaded, deleted, downloaded, renamed, reviewed, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, just in one application, one Office application, you've got a whole lot of signals that can be used to do that threat intelligence reporting or that threat hunting within an environment that has traditionally not been available. Same thing with SharePoint. We've got a whole bunch of signals there to pull on there. User auditing. So we can tell if a user's when a user is logged in or a login has failed, we get all these signals back. So these, of course, are all native signals coming from Azure. The same thing with mail. We have a nice threat intelligence dashboard, so we can look at all the threats there. Sorry, and then you've also got your summary. So that's a security compliance dashboard. So we can look at things like alerts triggered. This is always under development. So chances are once you get this up and running, you'll come back every few weeks and you'll notice that there's maybe new signals or new applications to watch, which is all very handy. Okay. Now I will quickly show the slide that I've cleaned up. So just jump forward, there we go. So that is an indication of what you can expect when you have a Crystal Eye appliance hooked up to your Azure Active Directory using Azure AD. Now I've cleaned up some of the names there just to remove the personal information. But as you can see, just looking at the summary, it gives you a pretty clear indication of what threats are there, number of sign-ins, mail, and compliance threats. Now, it's also important to note that this is available to Microsoft 365 licenses from professional, so P1 and up. You don't need to get an enterprise license in order to have access to this kind of information and also to save it to the Crystal Eye appliance itself, which is another thing. We know that cloud storage is not cheap, but thankfully, the storage on a Crystal Eye appliance is relatively low compared to that live storage out there on Azure. So this gives us the ability to do extended logging and just capturing all that threat intelligence and hanging onto it for as long as we need to. So currently 30 days, and we will be extending that out to 90 days and beyond. Okay, passive encryption control. I'm going to stop sharing slides for now. We'll have to jump forward a bit and share that one. This is the fun part about webinars where you have to juggle sharing of things. So passive encryption control. Now, traditionally, IoT has been one of these pain points when it comes to protecting against compromise of an IoT device. First of all, knowing that it's been compromised, and second of all, isolating it in case of it's been compromised, and of course, third, just assuming that it's probably been compromised anyway, and you need to find a way to isolate it or just make sure that it sticks to the rules that it's set out when it comes to communicating with its own servers. So this is what's led us to develop passive encryption control. So you've noticed that I've got all these IoT devices here. These are all sitting on the terrible flat network that I've got at home that I use for demonstration purposes. They're all still accessible to the endpoints around on my network. So we're not sacrificing that connectivity, and we don't have to go and do like that sort of network segregation or micro-segmentation, which is recommended, and it's still recommended. It just means that we can do this, and it also lightens the load when it comes to configuring this. So what it does is that we turn on passive encryption control, and it will sit there and watch for traffic. So it'll be looking for things like the appliance that it's coming from, the communication method it's using, and the server that it's communicating to. Now, typically when an IoT device is compromised, it might start communicating in a different way. We've actually already set the baseline. So let's say I'm quite happy with the way the network's been running at the moment, and I'll say capture secure state. This will actually set a baseline of network communications between various IoT devices and the servers that they specifically talk to. So they're fingerprinted against each device. It's not like a whole network thing. It's drilling right down to the device and the protocol and the application used. So we capture that secure state, and then anytime there is communications that is witnessed outside of this secure state, it's either alerted or blocked, depending on the profile you set. So that is passive encryption control, and we're quite pleased with this because it really simplifies the way that we secure those IoT devices, which previously have been very, very hard to manage and also configure in regards to how they communicate with what and what method. Okay, so the next one is our threat hunt dashboard. The threat hunt dashboard has undergone a recent review, and I'm actually very pleased with it. The layout is a lot better. It's a lot easier for people who are not necessarily cybersecurity technical when it comes to detecting alerts, getting an idea on what's going on with their network. So you've got your summary. We've also got a threat dashboard. Now, the really cool thing about the threat dashboard is that you can start saving templates. So let's say everyone's all worried about the 3CX breach. You can actually set a rule that will watch for traffic that relates to like an indicator of compromise for the 3CX vulnerability. And you can actually save that as a template. So at any time you can come back, press a button, and you can see all the alerts relating to that template. So hopefully you're not seeing anything weird, but if you do, it's really easy to drill down and find it. We've also got our network.
Hey, Ben, did I see that there's a bunch of people in Ireland coming for you? I saw about number 8 down
Threat
on
dashboard. Let's see. Oh.
The list on the threat dashboard. Oh, sorry, I'm after.
Oh, now you've done it.
Done it.
That's a good pick.
Oh, we can go back there. Look, they're probably up to number 1 now.
Yeah,
they've taken you down completely.
Where was that? That was on the summary, was it?
It was in the summary. Yeah.
Okay, top alerting countries. Not necessarily going for me, but there we go. There's Australia, United States, Bulgaria, United States. So, and this is down to particular IP addresses, but I think you said something along the lines of Ireland. No?
Yeah, on the right-hand side.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
There you go.
So 25.
Hey,
yeah. So 25 alerts against a particular IP that is based in Ireland. So,
okay.
You know, I don't mind the Irish people. They're kind of nice. They're fine. Just got to worry about the Australians, right? Okay.
That's right. They're getting hit hard.
That's right.
Thanks for that.
No worries. Okay, so network threat hunting. There we go. You've got a quick view to start with on your network activity with your summary or your overview. We can also drill down into things like protocols and applications. So if you want to get really granular when it comes to viewing the traffic on your network and identifying potential threats, using the threat hunt dashboard is actually very easy. We also have AI analysis for various flows, and you can also track down active sessions. That gets, that's like an active investigation thing, so you're watching stuff in real time happen. But what we'll do is we'll move on to the next one, which is automated actionable intelligence. Now, this one has been around for a while, and this is actually one of our more powerful tools that we're very happy with. The managing of known bad IP addresses, it's important, and it's also very labor intensive. So in order to do this effectively on your own, you need to be constantly researching known bad IP addresses or getting some sort of a feed, and then you've got to operationalize or basically put this into action. We do this for you automatically. So this is a list of bad IP addresses that we know have been misbehaving. It is reviewed and updated. Well, it's updated daily, and it's reviewed as often as we can. So you can be sure that you've got a very current list of known bad actors. A good example of this was, when we were going from 2019 to 2020, thinking, gee, 2019 was bad. 2020 comes along and says, hold my beer. And of course, the health scare breaks out. And we saw a lot of like new domains being set up that had the word Medicare in them. And obviously they weren't legit Medicare domains, but we were able to identify these domains, identify the IP addresses that were associated with them, and we added them to the known bad hosts list. So this automated actionable intelligence was actually up to date, and it was applying protections to infrastructure that was being set up that was going to be used in future phishing or other sort of cybersecurity campaigns. We were protecting our clients well before the actual campaign got underway. So that's just another example of the predictive protection that we offer to our end clients and partners. Vulnerability scanning. Vulnerability scanning, this is also really important. If you don't know what's vulnerable on your network, there's no way you can mitigate for it. Now, vulnerability scanning on its own is great. It's a very useful tool, and it's something we have here incorporated with the Crystal Eye appliance. So you can schedule a scan at any time you like. We've also managed to drive down the cost of a scan. So instead of like thousands of dollars, you can get a vulnerability scan scheduled and reported on for $600. So we've done a lot of automation on this. And we also have these scans curated by our Security Operations Center. So it's all well and good to get like a full list of all breaches, all vulnerabilities, but a lot of these are sort of information only, or very, very low severity, or very low risk. So we actually pull that out to give you a more rounded context into the vulnerabilities that would be present on your network. So this also comes down to our eCISO program, and also aligns with that Gartner acronym CTEM, so Continuous Threat Exposure Management. So if we were to take a vulnerability scan and go from top to bottom, MSPs would be flat out just trying to catch up with vulnerabilities that have been identified but not prioritized in regards to risk. So this is where our eCISO program comes into play, and also our threat intelligence, where we're able to give a clear context over not only the vulnerability, but the risk, the real risk that this vulnerability will be exploited in an attack. We're very pleased. When I first found the Crystal Eye appliance, this is about 2 or 3 weeks after I built my own vulnerability scanning system in another engagement I was at, and I just immediately had to jump ship and join Red Piranha, because that tool alone was extremely powerful, and it's right there ready to go. Now, IDPS is also another cornerstone of our detection and protection tools. The IDPS systems we use, it's all based on Suricata. The reason why we use this is because Suricata allows multi-threading. And this means that we get a much higher throughput. We've actually managed to break records by leveraging hyper-threading or multi-threading and Suricata. On top of that, because our appliances have got more storage and more RAM than pretty much anything else on the market, price per pound, we're able to do things like have, just in one of our rule sets, 57,105 rules, whereas our competitors might have 8 to 12,000 tops. So you get a more complete more complete set of rules to protect your network. So it gives you like better context and better granular control. You can update these rules yourself if you like, but these rules are actually managed by our Security Operations Center again. So once again, we're taking that burden off the MSPs and also off the end clients that want to manage their own security. We're actually got people who live, eat, and breathe security, and they are always generating rules or updating bad IP address lists. So you've got this cybersecurity village already at your back, taking care of the business for you. Okay. Now, where does that leave us? Yep. So that's a quick view of Orchestrate. I was going to have that up there if we had other things to talk about, but I am going to jump back. So jump back, there we go. And we'll go back to our slide deck. And I'm just going to have to jump through these little prompts here. Secure Web Gateway, almost forgot. Secure Web Gateway, what we've done is we've taken things like application filtering. Let's see, I'll just grab it here. All right, so Secure Web Gateway, it's made up of a bunch of tools that all work together towards making sure that the endpoints are protected. So we are employing tools like anti-phishing, antivirus, application filter, so you can actually filter the applications as they're called on by the endpoints. You can even go deep into the protocols as well, which is a very, very extensive list of protocols that we can either whitelist or blacklist. The same thing with applications as well. And of course, web filtering, where you can actually set good proxy rules to help protect your network, your endpoints, against the other threats. So antivirus and those sorts of things, it's all very important, but it doesn't, it can be defeated, much like network detection and response can be defeated as well. But when we have them teamed up together, we can actually provide close to 100%, or about as close as you can get to 100% in regards to protection. So we're very proud of our Secure Web Gateway. That's just undergone a redesign to make it a little more logical to get to and to employ. Now that's just a few of the large list of security inclusions we have. So we have, obviously the SIEM is built in. You don't need to go and get your own SIEM. We do that for you. There's a secure email gateway, web filtering, of course, which I've mentioned. backups, we've got forensics as well, packet capture and analysis. This is one I like to touch on as well. Packet capture and analysis is quite often done after the fact that we've noticed that something is not quite right. Now, traditionally, that is something that's been done by maybe one of the big four organizations out there that do incident response. And you have a breach, you give them a call and you say, we've got a problem. And they say, okay, we'll book someone to come out in the next few days or maybe weeks. They come out, they put a packet capture analysis tool on the network. It sits there for a while, gathers a lot of information, and then they go back, take the box back to the office, do a report. So in the meantime, this is around about a 4 to 6 week window where your IT team is trying to stand up a network again without actually knowing exactly what's going on. Our packet capture analysis built into the Crystal Eye appliance allows our security engineers to perform an incident response instantly. So there is an incident, it happens, we either pick it up before you do, or you might notice something, you want to have an investigation done. We have the tool there ready to go, a couple of minutes of scanning, and we've got the information we need to start doing analysis. Of course, vulnerability scanning and threat footprinting, that's there. Network engineering. We also provide network engineering and on-site and remote delivery. We help with coaching, so ISMS and ECSO. Penetration testing is one of the fun things we get to do. Penetration testing, we've actually had a very high success rate. Incident response, of course, forensic analysis, and DNS Ensure antivirus, reputation lists, cyber threat intelligence. Now, this all comes down to performing an incident response. So typically, an incident response from the time of infection or time of breach to when we actually notice that something is wrong and we execute our incident response plan, if we've got one, it's been about as long as about 18 months. Now, that was in 2020. It's now 2023, and we're seeing threat actors actually trigger their attacks in a much shorter window. So we're now looking at closer to 6 months, maybe as little as 3 months, or even faster. So time is against you from the moment of breach. You've actually got to start moving quick. We used to think that a long dwell time was bad. Yeah, it's bad because we're not observing the network as closely as we should. But at least we had time to detect. And usually, in most cases, it's too late. Nowadays, that window is closing, and we need to do our detection and response much, much faster. So here's a little bit of a little fact that we like to brag about. A couple of years ago, we detected a breach, or a potential breach. We defeated that breach. We reported on it and sent the post-mortem report to the client within 24 minutes. So that is much faster than what other people would expect out of their response plan. So that just goes to show the effectiveness of not only good detection, but also a good response. Right. And
thank you, Ben.
Yeah, let's talk about ESET.
Yeah, look, I just want to talk about our partnership with our great company ESET. So really in the last year, although we've been working with ESET for a long time, we've developed a very strong strategic partnership with EDR company ESET. Now, when I say EDR company, ESET is very much more than an EDR provider, very much a global research company, and puts a lot of their profit back and the revenue back into research. So quite a unique strength there. And really, we're very aligned on this. Red Piranha has some very strong ties with research and development as well. Indeed, we do work with a lot of governments on research and development programs. Well, one thing on this partnership, for just direct licensing, we are a distributor with ESET, and we can provide any of the licensing requirements you need. One thing is that ESET recognizes that on-prem is still a very important part of endpoint detection, and indeed any kind of NDR, and also that that needs to, as a lot of EDR companies are going cloud only, they're really sticking with having both, at least having the option for on-prem as well. And our MDR program that we've developed really gives the best of both worlds, and really it's so important to our provision of a CSP. So key to this is that we're integrating their enterprise product into our XDR platform to have a true consolidated cybersecurity platform. And some of the powers of this really are around the monitoring capabilities, the eyes on glass for network, cloud, and endpoints, including Microsoft 365. We also have included in this service a retainer-free incident response. And again, for network, cloud, endpoints, and digital forensics has an instant launch as well. So there's no delay with that. We can really get into the forensics and find out where something's coming from. And if you find a threat on an endpoint, or if we detect a threat on one of your endpoints, well, what we can do there is isolate that endpoint with ESET. And we've had some recent examples of this internally that have had this exact thing happen, and we've just been able to take these in our stride. And then we can look straight at the network, because you look at the endpoint, what's after happening? You've got an APT, a ransomware. Well, let's see where it came from. Then we can go to Crystal Eye and see what happened on the network at those particular time. It just makes our digital forensics investigation so much easier, and especially with APTs and ransomware, because really at this stage we're looking at behavioral stuff, and having endpoint detection, according to really anyone you speak to today in 2023, it's not enough. You've got to have qualified detection engineers looking at these threats, and basically separating the chaff from the real stuff, and being able to work very critically on the necessary arrangements. So some interesting stuff. You can talk to your business development manager about any of this, and we're doing at the moment a lot of stuff around Australia and Pacific Islands, but working also hopefully up in India and Middle East, and further with ESET as we move the partnership further. But please talk to your BDM about that. And just a quick rundown of the security services overview. So we're not just as you know from speaking with myself and Ben, just a technology company. We do a lot of services as well, and that we wouldn't be a holistic provider if we didn't. With our vulnerability assessment and pen testing, we provide a range of services really around. With a vulnerability assessment, it's the entry-level technical engagement to identify known vulnerabilities. And with the pen testing, we're identifying known and unknown vulnerabilities, and we go a step further to uncover if a breach is possible. And with breach and attack simulation, we're doing a number of these at the moment. This involves a series of simulated attacks to gain a true understanding of your security posture. Now, Ben mentioned earlier the automated vulnerability assessment. So we do provide regular scans integrated into the Crystal Eye platform. For example, in our eCISO program, we do provide 4 a year, and they're not just the daily or weekly VUN scan tests you can get from other providers. These are quite in-depth and can be done at any time as well, at a cost of what we're speaking about 600 Australian dollars. Right, so moving on to the security risk assessment service. So an SRA is a detailed service which needs to be scoped by our pre-sales team using a statement of work. So engage with your Red Piranha business development manager to assist with scoping a SOW through our pre-sales process. And these can be, gap analysis to ISO 27001 in Australia, Essential 8, or it might be New South Wales Mandatory 23, an interesting one. 2 of the 23 include Essential 8. Not sure how that works, but we do that as well. And for companies that want or need to conform to any of these standards, we can get them there, do a gap analysis, or even do the rest of the stuff, audits or pre-audits as well. Something very dear to my heart, because I do get involved in a lot of the eCISO engagements. I know some of you on the webinar here are familiar with hearing my voice in some of those meetings in the background. It's a very cost-effective package, and if you look at what all the tasks here of a chief information security officer, it's clear why they're hard to find, they're expensive, and we don't kind of feel that in the mid-market most companies need a full-time CISO. We can take that function out of your company and mitigate all the risk and work through it. And we spoke earlier about having a cybersecurity personal trainer, and that's really the best way of looking at the eCISO. It's monthly meetings, it's advice, it's discussion on what's happening in the market at the time, what threats are out there, and then leveling up each of your 7 outcomes in cybersecurity and taking them to a maturity level that's going to keep your partners, your clients, yourselves safe going forward. And really, it's the holistic solution, not just the vibe of the thing, the whole thing. So
Look,
that's where we come in.
Yeah, look, I think I like to jump in around about this time to talk about the effectiveness of eCISO. So it's very, very rare that you have a case where you can compare the implementation of eCISO against 2 identical cases, but we are extremely fortunate that we do. So we have 2 customers. They are in the same industry vertical. They've roughly got the same turnover, same footprint as far as their digital footprint goes, and they're both using eCISO. Now, the difference is one was following the program set out by eCISO, the other one was not. They were both breached in exactly the same way. So this was business email compromise.
And very, very similar times, within a week and a half of each other, I think.
It was like, it was like looking at a case that was just been repeated. We were asking ourselves, hang on a sec, is this a case from before, or is this a new one? So once we got that sorted out, we managed to do the work, and it came away. So case number 1, the incident was addressed, and we issued a post-mortem report and everything, prevented the breach from happening in the first place, which was great. And we managed to wind up the whole incident for $3,000 total cost to the customer, and also no downtime, which is really, really important, especially for your end customers. Now, the other one, on the other hand, they also eCISO, but they weren't employing any of the controls or any of the recommendations put out by the eCISO program, and they were completely rinsed, and to the tune of £300,000. So it's a clear indication, and we're also very fortunate where we can hold up the 2 cases and answer the question, does eCISO work? And we can say unequivocally, yes, it does.
Yes, it does, with an asterisk. It's like having the students. We can teach, a lecturer can teach a student, but if you're sitting in the back of the class just thinking about the next cigarette or getting out thinking about rugby or football or something and not getting the job done, you're going to be in trouble. So we can provide all of that, but it is a partnership as well. And the eCISO is a kind of a 3-way partnership between Red Piranha, the partner, and the end user, the client that we're trying to protect. Or it might be Red Piranha with the IT department, the partner, and the client. So it's one of those things, and it's you provide the tools and we can get them there, but we do have to have a buy-in as well. Everybody, we're all adults in this, and the crooks are coming for us, and we've just got to be as prepared as we can. Try not to leave the doors open and make it easy for them, Okay, next steps. Well, you can talk to your BDM about an NFR appliance, or probably first of all, Ben, when we've got Crystal Eye Essentials 1 on Thursday next week, I think. Is that
Yeah,
right?
that sounds right. So Crystal Eye Essentials 1, this is where I'll take you through the Orchestrate platform and also really sort of drill into the tools that we use to manage our partners as well as their end clients. So it's a really comprehensive platform that manages that relationship and also gives access to things like training, the ability for end clients to pretty much do self-service sales, and of course these sales are then the partners are recognized for these sales. So again, respecting that partner end client relationship. And then the week after that, we have Crystal Eye Essentials Module 2. This is where I'll take you through the training in like setting up a Crystal Eye appliance. So it's a virtual appliance that we spin up for all of our attendees, and everyone has a chance to go through the setup process. So there is a first installation wizard, which makes the setup incredibly easy, and then you let loose to have a bit of a play with all the controls we have there, with a couple of exceptions, of course, because some of them are pretty resource heavy, and I don't think we've got the resources or the budget to allow everyone to do a vulnerability scan at the same time off the same virtual instance, because it's a bit of a beast. And then after that, you can decide to get an NFR appliance. And we also have our Crystal Eye Certified Engineer course. That is available on demand, but we are also doing a refreshed version of this for version of 4.5. And then soon again, with the rate we're going at the moment, we'll have 5.0 later on this year, I'd expect. So it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, so in the chat there, you can see Rhea has put in the links to, so if you do one thing today, register yourself for module 1, and you'll see Ben next week. I might take a little break next week, Ben, if that's all right.
Oh, lucky you. Okay.
Okay, any questions? Put them in the chat. We'll be keeping. I think Peter has a question there. Ben, if you want to have a look, what we got?
Yeah, Peter did have a question. I just wanted a bit of clarification. So Peter said, is that a service or only for one customer? I'm not too sure what exactly he was specifying as that a service.
Was it? Let me just look at the time on that. Was it around the time of the vulnerability scan? Around
137.
Sorry, Peter, if you can just pipe back in there, that'd be great.
Oh, vulnerability scan. Okay.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Was it the vulnerability scan? Oh, yeah, yes. Good,
yes.
Good.
So vulnerability scan. Is vulnerability scan a service or only for one customer? So the vulnerability scan, it is $600 per scan. Because each scan has to be sort of sent back to our security operations center, and then they do a review. Now, the scans are initiated from a Crystal Eye appliance, which typically takes care of one network. So yeah, this would be a service for a client or endpoint or site that is being managed by a single Crystal Eye appliance. Hopefully that answers your question.
And William there about the NFR license. Now the NFR license is actually there is a charge for it. It's the actual, like a Crystal Eye 10. I don't know what the NFR price is for it, but it's sub I think maybe 800, 900 AUD. Don't quote me on that, but it's at basically our cost price. Now, would you need to complete the certifications? Very highly advised to complete the certifications. As a BDM, I'll sell you anything without the certifications, William. But really, because I just want the money, right? But realistically, yeah, best to do the certifications. Certainly, module 1 and module 2, and get into those. Get to understand the product. It's although we say it's quite straightforward, there's a lot to it, and it's getting better and better. We got some great documentation, Ben. Docs.red. Am I out of it?
No,
docs.red.
No, you're on it. So docs.redpiranha.net is our new and updated manual / documentation site. So feel free to go there, and whether you need to get certifications to get your NFR license, Kevin's going to say no. I'm going to say yes. So this is one of the things we disagree on sometimes. But hey, look, it is highly advisable that you do go and get your certifications done, at least before you get your NFR license or NFR appliance. So that way you're not sort of doing those silly mistakes. I mean, that I admit that I made when I got my very first Crystal Eye appliance. I made some clangers, and look at me now, product manager. There you go.
No, massively important, and it definitely is a kind of salesy joke. But we don't want to hear back when things don't work out. It's not a good user experience either when people don't know. And even there's a lot to it as well. You can't just turn it on and off. There's a lot of damage you can do if you don't know what you're doing with the NFRs. But definitely certifications are a must.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any other
the cost of the eCISO product.
Okay, the eCISO product is $9,900. It includes 11 meetings per year with, it's actually on the website. You'll see under services, it's under security resourcing and eCISO. You'll see it in there, but it includes all the documentation for ISO 27001, all the templates for that, 10 hours of incident response, 11 hours of pre-eCISO meeting, some ISMS consulting hours, and anything I've left out there, Ben? 4 vulnerability scans per year.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that alone.
yeah, lots of cool stuff, everything you need, and access to any over and above. We do have many customers that what we call eCISO Plus. It's 9,900 for the program itself, but if they want to develop, let's say, 5-6 policies a year in the run up to getting their certification for ISO, we can help them with that, and they might buy either half a day a month of consulting, which works out at $10,000 a year, or a day a month works out at $20,000 a year. So they can put that into their HR budget if they want, but it's a very valuable thing, and that's what a lot of people use. But depending on the need, some of our customers just use the eCISO with Crystal Eye and get some massive benefit out of that.
Another question from Kay asking, can you pay for that monthly?
Yes, you can. That's available in our Orchestrate platform, which you can find all about on, I think, 3:30 p.m. AEST next Thursday. That's our store and how you get access to that. But yeah, you can buy that monthly from the store. We also have a product called Crystal Eye 360, which it's a 36-month lease. It includes eCISO for 3 years, a Crystal Eye 25 as an example. You can get a Crystal Eye 10 or a 20, and also your licensing for 3 years, and that works out at $999 a month for the whole package.
Excellent. Do we have any other questions?
Okay, Ben, I think we better wrap it up. We're a few minutes over, and I'm sure some people have places to go. A number have left, so yep, obviously people do. But look, thanks very much for listening, and look forward to seeing everybody in the next one.
Thanks very much, everyone. Catch you next time.